Hello and welcome back to another week on That Gut Feeling, doing it for the kids. I am so excited and honoured to introduce our guest today, Kirsty Wirth from Kultured Wellness. I have been following Kirsty for, it'll be a good 4 or 5 years now, and what this woman she's just got such a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to jump into it with her. Kirsty, would you mind giving us a brief introduction about yourself, what it is that you do, and how you got into this space?
Wow. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm always so keen to talk about gut health and get the message out there. So, I am the director of a company called Kultured Wellness, and we have the same vision. So, Kultured Wellness is very much about raising awareness about the importance of gut health, and then also raising the awareness about the fact that getting back in the kitchen, fermenting your own foods, nourishing your own family, and optimizing your health is something you can do yourself. You don't have to, have all of these big things in place. It's very simple steps that you can do at home. So yeah, so I started my company, almost 6 years ago now, and I have a background in education and teaching. So it's always been my thing. I've taught outdoor ed, I've taught PE in schools, and then I was a lecturer at university for quite some time when I was studying my PhD. So I have that education background, but I had no interest in making a business and no interest in having a business. It sort of landed in my lap because of my experiences with my own gut health and also my son's gut health and my daughters and my husband and everyone else that I help. But I saw firsthand what an imbalanced gut can look like and what that can look like for your emotional health, for your physical health, for everything about you. If that gut isn't functioning, then everything else it just doesn't develop. So my gut was pretty poor for most of my life, and there were ebbs and flows, and it would escalate to really being quite a significant issue, and then it would settle down again, and then it would flare up again, and I just wouldn't deal with it. I would just put it down to hereditary issues. My nana had dodgy gut, my mum had a dodgy gut, my uncle, my aunt, it just went on. And so it was quite the family joke. Like after you'd have something to eat, it's like, oh, there you go. My tummy's bloated, off to the toilet. And no one would question that's actually not normal and not okay. But for all the mamas out there, you would do anything if your son or your daughter gets sick. And that's exactly what happened to me. My son had, significant issues that literally impacted his ability to grow and develop and learn. And so he received a diagnosis of autism at 3.5, and with a prognosis of being nonverbal and just really not being able to reach those beautiful milestones in life that we all want to achieve, going to school and going to uni and getting married and having kids and moving out of home and traveling the world and, achieving those dreams. His prognosis was that he certainly wouldn't have any of that, and he would most likely either live with us or he would have to move into a home. So at that point, I had a newborn as well, and I had this prognosis, and it was just so confronting because up until about 15 to 18 months, Noah was tracking beautifully. So he had language. I will never forget, he was so good at sport and kicking the ball, and I love my sport. I was just so excited. I'm going to be the mum that drives my son around everywhere to every sport under the sun.
Gonna be the star football player.
I know. And his uncle played a really high level of AFL, and you have those dreams, and you don't even know you're creating them. They're just there. It's just, this is going to be so cool. And he's he's a big, burly, strong boy. He'll be a full forward for sure. And you have all these aspirations and dreams, and it really did just completely fall apart. So there was definitely poignant times in that journey. He got Giardia in Fiji, so he had a gut infection. He broke his arm. He got Giardia again at 15 months. And then he was put on antibiotics for multiple ear infections. And he just really started to go off his food. And I don't blame him. If you've got infections like that, you're not going to want to eat. You're going to go off your food. And it was untreated. It was left, we would go and visit the pediatrician, or we would go and see the GP, but it was put down to toddler diarrhea. Or I'm a new mum. This was a good one I got all the time. I'm a new mum, and kids behave like that. You're just not used to being a mum. All kids are a bit scratchy and screamy and don't sleep very well. And, all kids have a bit of eczema and rashes over them, and, get fevers every now and again. Just give him some Nurofen, what have you. So, at the time it's, well, you trust the medical experts, and if that's what they say. And interestingly, as it progressed, it was really my husband, who is a very, very experienced nurse, said to me, look, he has hardcore yellow diarrhea. Like, if I was at work and one of my patients had that on the gastro ward, we would section them and we would get the testing done, and we would find out what's happening. So, yeah, we went on this grand adventure. And back then in Australia, you couldn't really find any gut analysis testing for more than, is it Giardia, is it D. fragilis, or what parasite is it? And you certainly couldn't really get any investigation as to what beneficial bacteria are in there. Is there C. diff in there? All of these sorts of things. So we had to track down the right crew. We had to track down the right testing. And we just really had to get to it and research and find help and find solutions. And once we got the appropriate testing, we found out that, yes, he was an extremely sick boy with some very serious gut infections that were significantly impacting his brain and his cognition. And he wasn't developing because of what was happening in his gut. So we went for it. We got the right support, went back and did more learning. I did a lot more study, and very fortunate to be on a study in Canada. And Noah, myself, and my daughter were able to have gut transplants, and as part of this research study. And that was when literally, the fork in the road, this moment in time that completely changed our lives, and off we went in a different trajectory. And after Noah's transplant, he started talking and functioning and developing and growing and learning and fighting with his sister and being annoying and all the cool stuff that you want your children to do, instead of just staring off into space. I know. I literally look at, other kids fighting with their siblings and dream of it, because Noah was so in his world of just staring off into space. It was like, he never interacted or engaged with his sister. And I was like, I just want them to have a fight, like something normal sibling. And so, even now it's a long time on, and I see them having a fight and laying into each other, and, just sibling, bravado. And it's just so lovely. It's so, so lovely.
That's amazing. And with, so you mentioned about the gut transplant. How long after that happened did you start seeing improvements? And can you give us a bit more of a description of what that actually involves for those that may not be aware?
Yeah. So it's called a fecal microbial transplant, and it's been used for eons of time. It's actually an old Chinese medicine treatment. So it's got a lot of history, but within conventional medical medicine, it's certainly come into the fore to treat an infection called Clostridium difficile, which is extremely life-threatening, and that's what Noah and myself had. And so at that time, there was a lot of research and a lot of funding coming about with regards to autism and this connection between Clostridium difficile and an autism diagnosis. And we now know many years later, that the metabolites that this Clostridium difficile releases really get into the brain. It leaks into the brain and just blocks development. The brain just stops working. And so that fecal microbial transplant is you take the healthy bacteria of a donor, of someone else, and you basically replace that into your body and you create a brand new gut microbiome. So it's like going out and just, getting rid of your front lawn and just stripping it right back to the bare soil and then starting again. So putting new soil on, a new fertilizer, planting a new seed, and then watering it. And that's the level that we had to go to. So we had to take some pretty horrible antibiotics to kill everything off, good and bad, and start all over again. So
that wouldn't have been fun.
No, it was not fun at all. And the behaviors and the tantrums, and you're in a different country and you're not, like there was just so many layers of even taking the all of the antibiotics and all of the medications to clear it all out. So once you replace that with beneficial bacteria from someone else, you notice changes really quickly, really, really quickly. So literally the next day after Noah's first transfer, he was saying words that I'd never heard him say before. He was very alert, very aware. He was pointing at things, and that's a train, or that's a car. And he'd lost almost all of his functional words. And so every single day it just got better and better and better and better. And then it's hard for the body. It's got to rebalance and reshape, and it's got to find its own footprint and groove after something like that. So it takes a long time, but it was big. It was really big.
That would have been incredible for you as a mum to witness that and to know that because that wouldn't have been a real easy thing to go over there and do. Like you said, it wouldn't have been an easy decision to make. And, so many unknowns and all the rest of it, but to get to the other side of that and then go, oh, wow, this is all paying off. I am moving in the right direction. And, I could just imagine what a relief that must have been, and to hear words as well. Once you got home from that experience, how did you then go on to support and continue to nourish the gut? And, obviously that was just the beginning of the journey for you. What other things did you discover about your own health and Noah's? And also, I'd love to hear how Noah is doing now.
Yeah. He's a stinky 13-year-old. This morning, I actually said, dude, we're going to have to talk about deodorant. Here we are with the deodorant conversation. So only just this morning I was teaching him, this is how you put it on. This is what you need to do. Here we are at teenage deodorant smelly boy situation. So a lot's changed since that, little boy. And he's going great guns. He's just started high school. He's in a normal school. He's in age appropriate level. He doesn't need an adjusted curriculum plan, which is wonderful. But he's got so much catching up to do socially. He really literally didn't develop for many, many years. So we know that the brain develops between that 0 and 7 years. And that is like the foundational time. And pretty much at that time, Noah didn't have that development. So we do a lot of work now on his brain support and development, so he can rewire those neural pathways. He can get that back again, because he had a lot of time of not being able to have that happen for him. But he's just going great guns. You can't shut him up. He's totally addicted, as every 13-year-old boy is, to his his games and technology, and constantly talking. I always joke to him, I was like, I'm not sure if I preferred it when he didn't talk, Noah. But to answer your question, when we came back from the States, it was literally only or from Canada, it was the starting point, because you've got to hold on to that new beautiful gut that you've got, and you've got to nourish it and nurture it. And, I had to upskill yet again. What do you feed this beautiful gut microbiome? What probiotics does it need, or does it need fermented foods? And how do I prevent us from killing off that new bacteria? And bacteria needs prebiotics to grow. What are these things, and how often am I supposed to have them? And so it was this massive learning curve, and it was time sensitive because I couldn't take 6 months to learn it all, because it was the there and now. I could kill off a new gut microbiome within a couple of days, not 6 months. So yeah, I sort of dove into learning about fermented foods, cultured foods, what bacteria strains support a beneficial microbiome, what supports the right environment for your gut, the right pH. And then, we soon learned our digestion was really broken too. And so you can get a new gut microbiome and you can have an FMT, but if your digestion still isn't working and if that's broken, then you're just going to have undigested food going in. And then eventually that new microbiome will end up being depleted anyway. And you can just get back to the same problem. So yeah, it was another big learning curve. And out of that literally is how Kultured Wellness, my company, started, because I developed the culture wellness cultures from learning, what ferments and what bacteria strains and how do you eat them. And we had some metabolic issues with our stress levels and glucose levels. We couldn't eat a lot of carbohydrates because our bodies were metabolically quite broken because of what was going on. So, okay, let's ferment it. And then the carbs and the sugar's gone. And then I was like fermenting everything inside. I'm going to ferment those dates. I'm going to ferment that. And, I just kind of went on this big whirlwind of adventure. And in the process of that, learned the steps of, you learn about the gut, but then you learn about digestion, and then you learn about stress response, and then you learn about brain function, then you learn about your environment and how that impacts you. And I was learning so much along the way that I started helping people. And then just because of my education background, it made a lot of sense for me to put that into a curriculum and into a learning platform to help other people, which is how the Cultured Wellness program started. So it's constantly evolving. It's an evolving feast of, Noah going through puberty. It affects the brain significantly. All those neurons are pruned. And so we have to go back to gut health again and go back to that brain function again.
I really resonated with looking at your environment and looking at the stress factors and that. And I often say to my clients that you can have the most pristine diet on the planet, but if you're stressed out of your brain and you're living in a toxic environment, or all of those things really do come into play as well, don't they?
Yeah, it's and I don't think we understand the weight and the significance of those things. So, we can be living in a moldy house and have a mold damaged house, and we're never going to get rid of candida in the gut if that's happening. So you can do as many candida cleanses and go on a candida diet and all those sorts of things and try and get rid of the candida within your body. But if it's behind the wall in your bedroom and it's just festing there and secreting all of those, fungal toxins every night, you're not going to get far.
You can say hello to Kirsty. You say hello.
Hello.
I'll see if I can get him sorted so that we can keep on going without any interruption.
Okay.
Sorry.
Easy. It's okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Joys of working from home with little ones, hey?
Yes, exactly.
Now, would you mind if I feel like we need to take a step back and do a bit more of a gut health 101 for beginners, and a bit of a understanding as to why it is so important and what happens to the body or to the gut to throw it out of whack, and then what long-term implications that has for our health. And also we talked about, the gut-brain connection. We touched on that. And I'd love to go into that a little bit as well, and sort of really highlight for the listeners why it is so important. I mean, you touched on it, but why it is so important that we are nurturing our children's microbiome when they are so young, and the impacts that that has on their development and everything down the track.
Sure. Beautiful. All right. Well, let's get started at understanding the gut, and then why this beautiful gut microbiome that we have is so important. And yes, it's getting a lot more airtime, but I still don't think we understand it from that absolute root cause of why it's so important. So our body is mainly made up of bacteria, fungi, and viruses, and it really literally is about 90% of that. And the rest of our body is made up of DNA. So traditionally, we've always looked at the body as this genetic function, this DNA material. Well, my mum has diabetes, so I have diabetes. And it's not actually the case. We now know that through this 90% of these trillions of bacteria that we have all over our bodies, and this, viruses and fungi, they're the ones that are actually either supporting our health or detracting from our health. So this beautiful bacteria in our body has these functions of secreting metabolites and secreting nutrients and minerals and vitamins, and they create these metabolites that help our bodies to function at its optimal state. So we have metabolites that can create things like short chain fatty acids to give us energy through our mitochondria. We also have bacteria that support our immune system to function effectively. So if we don't have that bacteria in our gut, we can't make those immune cells to protect us when we get sick. So without these microbes in our gut, we can't mount an immune response if we get sick. We can't make energy. We can't produce all of our chemicals, our brain chemicals, to feel happy, sad, motivated. We literally can't have anything talk to our brain to tell us, today's the day, get up out of bed, it's on, we're ready to go. It all just shuts down. It doesn't work effectively. And without that gut bacteria, we can't actually digest our beautiful food that we're eating, and assimilate the nutrients from it. So yes, we need iron, we need B6, we need vitamin C, we need zinc, we need all these things. But if our gut's broken, we won't actually be able to synthesize and utilize all of those nutrients. So it really is the seat of everything. So we were talking about, there's this beautiful sort of analogy of, you've got this incredible garden, and it's quite interesting since I've moved to Queensland. You go into a tropical place and it's it's so vibrant and diverse and rich. Like, I'm from South Australia, where there's like one tree in a paddock. It's just so flat and it's so brown. And not all South Australia, there's obviously parts of it that are really green and lush, but when you come to a tropical rainforest in Queensland, it's like there's the ground cover, and then there's the understory, and then there's like the medium-sized trees. And then you've got these massive, massive pines and all these different trees in there. And they're all performing different functions in that rainforest to create this perfect synergistic ecosystem. They all do an incredible job to create this healthy environment where that rainforest can thrive, and therefore where all of the animals can thrive, everyone that lives in there. And that's what we want to be creating in our gut. We want this diverse ecosystem of all of these different bacterias, all of these different strains and microbes to do what they need to do for our health. So the gut has to be the first point of call for anything that's going on within our body. If we're feeling sick, or if we're feeling emotional, if we're feeling that our mental health is suffering, if we're feeling like we're in pain, if we're having rashes all over our bodies, whatever's going on, we've got to go and look at those microbes and think, are they benefiting us, or are they actually causing trouble? So it's, that real 101 of the gut. And unfortunately, I see a lot of guts for people that come to me, and they are just completely desolate. They're just devoid of that beautiful bacteria that we need. And so they're not they're not lazy, and they're not stupid, and they're not, just, oh, we'll just get on with it, you're fine. Or they're not kids that are just naughty, or kids that just don't want to sleep and they're just, being naughty. That's the big thing I can't stand, is when parents are, they're just naughty. Like, kids don't want to scream all night. They don't want to scream all night. They want to be calm. What's going on in there? So these bacteria, they just do so much in our gut. So that's kind of like the underlying function of what happens in our gut and what it can do. And from that, how it feeds out to our immune response and feeds out to how our brain works is just so fascinating. So when I first started learning in this space, it was just the gut microbiome and these bacteria. That was it. Then we moved into understanding these bacteria create metabolites that then we learned, wow, these metabolites help with the function of all these different systems in our body. And that was amazing. And then now we've learned very specifically, okay, we need these metabolites to create, dopamine or serotonin to feel motivated and joyful. And then we've been able to work out, well, actually, that's from this particular bacteria. It's quite devoid in people who have autoimmune condition. Let's get some beautiful fermented foods in there. Let's get some prebiotics in there. Let's grow this new diverse garden so we can look at combating this autoimmune condition or this mental health condition. So we're at this incredible, exciting time of knowing a lot and knowing little in this gut research space, but we can really target that a person's condition, whether it be mental health, whether it be skin condition, whether it be, development, for example, ASD, OCD, ADD, all of these conditions that we're seeing, global development delay, dyslexia, we can now start to pinpoint it is because of this particular infection and the environment that it's creating, that infection that the environment the infection's creating, and we can see what it's doing and why this person has this condition. And we can go down and look at the root cause of that and make a change, as opposed to, here's the diagnosis, go and get some speech therapy, not much we can do for you.
And I think a lot of the people that I come into contact, and this is a big, big reason why I wanted to start my podcast, is because a lot of the behaviors are normalized in your mainstream medical system. A lot of the conditions that people are suffering with, they go to the doctor and they're told that then there's nothing that can be done. And, since I got into this space, I have connected with so many people that have such incredible stories of how they've transformed their life and their health. And I was like, you know what, I have to record this stuff and I have to get these stories out there because people need to know that there is so much that can be done. I think it's really, really important. And I love the work that you're doing. And it's just such incredible stuff that needs to be done. What would you say to someone who has only just discovered this or may not even be aware of the fact that they can improve their gut health and then therefore improve their children's behavior, improve whatever it is that they may have going on? Because when you start to look down the whole concept of gut health, there is a lot of information out there online and it can be really, really overwhelming. Where do you start? Where does someone start? And on that note too, there's potentially a lot of misinformation out there as well. Is there anything in particular that you've seen sprouted from the rooftops at the moment that is really terrible gut health advice?
Oh, yes. So two questions there. So, yeah. So where do you start, or what would I say to someone, because there's so much information in there? The first thing I would say is keep it super, super simple. So would your great grandmother eat that? It's really simple if you have that constant conversation in your head when you go to the shops. Would your grandmother have eaten that, or your great grandmother? So your great grandmother didn't eat packaged food. Your great grandmother had organic food because it was often just grown at home. There was no chemicals. There was nothing that they were exposed to. Of course, there was, DDT and all sorts of stuff, but for farm, that they would have eaten, they knew not to put those chemicals on their food. And to keep it really, really simple, I would always refer back to my grandfather, and it's like, well, when the sun went down, so did we. And when the sun came up, so did we. They didn't sit around watching Netflix till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. They didn't have kids on screens. They were outside in the dirt all the time. They would go to a community space together on the weekends, whether that be, going to church as a community, or they went, the farmers would get together and, talk about their farming or what have you. There was always a community aspect and community component to it. And so if we think about what we do in a day, and would my great grandmother have done that, most of the stuff that we do now doesn't fit that. So it's really easy to bring it down to the simple, like, where do I start? You start there. So you don't need to go and research anything. You don't need to go and look up the latest blog posts. You don't need to read the latest book on gut health, because that stuff needs to be stitched up first before you even go and look at any of the information. What am I doing in my life that is not what is that my ancestors did that served a purpose then? So really, really simple stuff. And then where do you start? You always start with food as medicine. So I hear all the time people saying to me, I've been doing this for years and I've had no change, and I'm still having troubles with my gut, and I've made these big massive changes. And for a lot of people that have got gut problems and they're learning about gut problems, you can't do gut health for 3 days and then have a cheat day. And you can't do gut health for 4 days of the week, and then on the weekends you just, I'm just going to have what I normally have. Or yeah, I'm like gluten-free 80% of the time. But, then I just go out with the girls and rah, rah, rah. That doesn't fly. It doesn't work if you want to improve. So I am quite well known for being quite a hard ass when it comes to working with people. And so not working on your gut if you're not working on your gut. You either are or you're not. So I think that's very important, that you either are ready to dive on in and you're ready to commit, or you're not. And it's okay to not be ready to commit yet. I think that is wonderful, because you can have that mindset of learning. I'm getting bulk food sorted out. I'm learning how to ferment. I'm getting my crew around me. I'm getting a supportive team around me. Then this is my day that I'm going to kick off. Now I am doing everything in my power to look after my gut. It's one or the other.
And preparation would be a really integral part of it too, wouldn't it? Setting yourself up for success. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we do literally talk about kickoff days, because you can't, like I said, you can't be doing everything you can and then look, we went past the bakery and I decided that I'd buy something from the bakery, and it's like, well, now you've just consumed MSG, gluten, a truckload of chemicals, and for most people that takes the body 3 days to filter out, and for someone who's really sensitive to gluten, that will take 6 months to get out of your body. So it's okay wherever you are at, but being very honest with yourself about where you're at and making those choices. So coming to that misinformation, there is huge misinformation about, you can look after your gut and have a cheat day, and you can just do this for now, but as long as you're doing it half the time, you're making big steps forward. So if you are unwell or if you've got stuff going on, you have to really understand that every single thing that you put in your mouth is either nourishing you or it's detracting from you. And so this misinformation about this 80-20 rule, this misinformation, it just drives me bonkers, because if you want to get better, it's like, if you want to run for the Olympics, you train hard, you get up every day. You do not see an Olympian having cheat days, and you don't see Olympians, just taking a holiday and just, whatever, I'm just going to do what I want. So, if your goal and your dream and your mission is to have, just rocking gut health and your kids to be thriving and have no issues, then you've got to have that Olympians mindset that we're doing it and we're committed and off we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the other misinformation is that, it's common now that we have kids on the spectrum and kids with issues, and it's common and accepted that, autism is going to increase, and it's common and accepted that it's okay to have diarrhea. It's okay to have mental health issues. It's okay to be medicated for these things. It's not, and it's not okay. And I don't like the rhetoric that happens about, we have this beautiful environment where people can feel really open and feel feel really open to be able to talk about all of the things that are going on for them. But we also have to look at the fact that we need to improve it, and we need to make sure that we're addressing it and not making excuses for it, or because it's a diagnosis, just leaving it at that. So, when you talk about misinformation, it's like, wow, there's so much that we could talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really, really resonate with all of that as well, especially, with children on the spectrum. My girlfriend's advice when she took her boy to the doctor was, your child is autistic, make sure you discipline him like you would a neurotypical child. Um, and so, I know that it all comes down to education, and it's nothing against doctors, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I think that's why what we're doing is so important, because there is a lot of education that needs to be done. And if you are listening to this, please, please, oh, you've got a shoe. Come here. Please take away what you've heard here today and share it with people. And this information is really important, and there is a lot that can be done. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm very mindful of the time. I know I've only got you for not much longer.
Yeah.
Is there, what way can my listeners help to support you? And is there any parting advice, or even someone that is you idolize in the gut health space that you would recommend my listeners to check out, perhaps, or any parting words of wisdom?
Probably the biggest thing is that, it's so lovely to know that you have the power to affect change within yourself and your family. So you don't have to wait for anyone else. You don't have to wait for an expert. You don't have to wait to go and see, this world-class specialist that's only available in a country on the other side of the world. You can be making changes today, and you can actually affect massive change. It doesn't cost anything, and you can be doing that at home. And I just love that concept of the fact that, it's so simple, and you can do it, and it doesn't require big amounts of money or change or anything like that. So yeah, that would be my biggest parting words. And yeah, and I think just being super, super curious. So always having that mindset of being really, really curious. So why is this happening? Do I accept that? Do I want that to be part of my life? Is this and what's happening here going to help me achieve my dreams and my goals? Do I actually even know what my dreams and my goals are, or do I just feel so crapola I haven't made dreams or goals since I was 12 years old in, year 6. So that's really important to sort of take a step back, take some time out, and have an overarching look. And so when you become curious and you get back to that, what are my dreams and goals? What's going on for me? Then you can just absolutely go for looking at all of the different amazing people in this space that you can learn from. So is it that I want to learn about the basic functions of the gut microbiome, or is it that I want to learn about, and I've gone past that, now I want to learn about the brain and the gut, and then I want to learn about my environment and toxicity and all those sorts of things, and then being curious, you pick off and choose all the people that you want to interact and work with. So, and there are just so many out there, I wouldn't even know where to start, because there's so many cool people that I talk to or have learned from. But with a curious mind, then that's easy. It just flows. You find the people that answer your questions in a really beautiful, scientific, curious way.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your time with me today. I got so much out of it, and I had a million and one things that I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to have to get you on again at some point in the future. We barely even scratched the surface today, and I apologize that I am crook
Yes.
and all of the rest of it, but I promise next time I'll be in good health and I'll be jumping out my skin, and we'll be nerding out together on all things gut health. Where can everyone
Yeah.
find you, Kirsty? And I'll pop it in the show notes as well. But
Yes. Yeah. So culturedwellness.com, and that's with a K. So K for culturedwellness.com is the website. And then either on Facebook, Cultured Wellness, and then also on Instagram. And on Facebook, we have a beautiful community group. So it's a closed group so that you can go in, and lots of information. I do a lot of educational lives in there, lots of information from my team as well, supporting people. So if you want to learn more, if you want a safe space to ask questions and be supported, the Facebook community group is definitely the place to go. So we'll provide a link for that one too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, I'm being called, so I might leave it there.
All righty. Take care. Thanks for having me.